So, and we're up. So, and this is Eric Franz, right? Franz?
Yep.
Did I get it right?
Correct.
Beautiful. Brother, thanks for joining me, man. This is kind of cool. So what I get to do with this podcast is I get to talk to anybody I want to get to talk to, right? And so we talk to guys from the biggest cities to the smallest towns and everything in between. You have a very unique story, and I'm glad to have you on today, is that you are responsible for creating a movement in your area where it comes to high school kids, a junior firefighter program for the volunteer fire companies within your area. I think there was 9 schools. 9 fire chiefs came together, right, to put
Correct.
together the idea of putting together a high school fire club, right?
Correct. Yep. Yeah.
So
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well,
no, what I was going to say was part of the story that I read, right? You sent me some information. Part of it was something that's happened to me. Being on a fire ground, looking around and going, yikes, these guys are old, right? Our fire grounds in the American Fire Service for volunteer fire departments, right? As career jobs are trending younger, the volunteer fire service is trending older.
Mm-hmm.
And so the really interesting dilemma that we have is who are going to be our firefighters if the fire ground is now made up of 40, 50, and 60-year-olds. Where's the teens, the 20s, and the 30s? And so we need to do a better job at looking at how do we attract and bring in new members to take over, the active firefighting roles that we need on the fire ground. And so you had a moment. I'd love to hear about that. What was that for you?
Yeah, it was August of 23. We had a fire at a dairy farm, and I was able to get to the call and our crew, and I was pumping the truck. And, as I'm standing there, hose lines are established, everybody's working, you get a little bit of time to just kind of scan the scene. And I was the youngest guy there. So today I'm actually 48 years old. Is my birthday today. At that time I was 47. And
happy birthday.
Yeah. And I was the youngest guy there. So on the way back from that scene, I thought, what can we do to get some young blood involved? So yeah, I reached out to the 9 chiefs that cover the footprint of our school district. And, right away they're like, yeah, we have a shortage, we need help. We need young blood. So I coach soccer here in town, and the superintendent is the mother of one of my players at the time. So reached out to her and said, hey, what can we do to get some kids, get in front of the kids? She suggested a club. At that meeting, I actually went in, I didn't realize it was like the home run pitch at that point in time. I asked for, a class at the school to be able to get this training, first off, an education on volunteer fire department, but then the training that you need to actually be like, be able to do things on a scene, interior work, right, and that type of thing. So that, of course, is a, fairly extensive road to travel to get to that point. But her suggestion right away was, start a club. So, we started a club. And I like to share like some of the things that we had to do. We had to write a constitution. I think I sent that over to you, Jeremy.
Yeah.
And please feel free to share any of that stuff with anyone that you talk to.
Right. Yeah.
I'm imagining most school districts are probably the same. Clubs need a constitution. I only ever knew one constitution. It was the same one that you know of. But found myself writing a constitution, submitting that to the school board, and then they reviewed it and ratified it. So then we became an official club. But even before then, have a friend who's an ag teacher at the high school, and he opened his classroom to us to go in there and start talking to the kids. So,
before we go any further, I just want to set it up, right? This is more of a rural community.
Yeah.
Right. So it's more of a rural community. So you have an ag program. So agriculture, obviously farming is huge in that section of Pennsylvania. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So and you talked about going to your fire at a dairy farm. So we're talking quite a rural area, right? Where,
correct,
kids are taking on chores and doing work and, they're a big part of growing up, getting their hands dirty. Right. So this is a place where you would think volunteer firemen or firefighters would be more prevalent,
Yeah.
but you're still having the same struggles as, say, a suburban department or a bedroom community for a city.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the problem we have, and I would say it's probably no different than in the cities where, the family legacy is kind of dying off. And I attribute that to the cell phones. There's so many distractions nowadays. There's social media, there's games, there's, folks just aren't as apt to go out and do grunt work, and maybe following their relatives' footsteps,
Right.
grandfather, grandma, whomever it may be. So, um, that's been a struggle, and I think that's been one of the causes of the decline across the country. So we're trying to really engage the youth with exciting stuff, things they've
Do
never.
you have, when all this started a year, 2 years ago, did you have any junior members or younger members that were a part of the department?
Yeah. So good question. So to start the whole thing, I reached out to the chiefs and said, "Hey, we have a need." Yeah, we have a need. I said, "Okay, well,
Right.
how many juniors do you currently have?" So at that point in time, August of 23, we had six uh, students between the ages of 14 and 18 that were actively members of one of the 9 firehouses. So just 6. So our high school population is around 650 kids. So, 6 kids out of 650. I mean, that just is not,
Right.
and that's between the ages of 14 and 18. So that's just not nearly enough to sustain the future. So our goal is to get 10 students in each grade. I'd like to have 40
That would
kids
be
in the
incredible.
club, and
Right.
but we have to do exciting things and get them engaged and
What
have.
was the kids that you had though that were members?
Yeah.
You obviously went to them, I would assume, and
Oh
said,
yeah.
"Hey,
Yeah.
we're looking at how do I get more of your friends here? How do we get more kids involved?" And I would love to get an appreciation for what their responses were to you with the idea of starting a club in high school.
Yeah, yeah. No, they were excited. You know, the personalities of those students are just like your average volunteer, not really looking for the spotlight. Um, you know, the attention. They just
Right.
want to
Mhm.
do the job, and so you know, we found a lot of those students, in front of cameras. I engaged the media and got the local, TV and newspapers and things like that, and put the kids right in front of those folks. And it was, there's a lot to be gained other than just helping people in the community. There's, you know, their personalities. It's, problem solving. It's, public speaking. Being
100%.
so we do a lot of volunteering. This Saturday we'll be at the food bank handing out, food to folks in need. So it just really
Well,
creates well-rounded people.
we always talk about like giving back to the community. Oh, I'm civic minded. I want to serve the community. I want to volunteer. But on the other side of things, what the fire service can do for kids, right? We can take the shyest of kid or the most outgoing. We can take the troublemaker or the class clown. And when we bring them into our institution with a good set of rules and culture, everybody's on the same level.
Yep.
And what I love about that is I love watching the popular high school kid and the not so popular high school kid. Maybe in school they run in different circles and they different social lives and they connect differently at school, maybe just a nod or a wink or a hello. But then in the firehouse, they are all those superficial barriers that we knew in high school about I'm the cool kid, you're the nerd, I'm this, you're that. That goes away in the firehouse.
Yeah.
And I watched the very popular kid hanging out with the not so popular kid at the firehouse. And that is when you know the fire service does so much good for these kids.
Yeah.
We give them a solid foundation that is so valuable, I think, in their upbringing. And that for me is one of the big highlights is what we're able to do for these kids.
Yeah, I'm Jeremy, that you nailed it. The other thing too, and there was another document I sent over that has some bullet points on it that really it talks about the camaraderie. It talks about the
Yes.
mentorship. And I think, I have three boys. My youngest is 13, so not able to, participate yet. But looking forward to next year when he turns 14. But that's something my older boys really, mention that they appreciate is interacting with, they have their peer group, but then they have their firehouse group, and there's folks of all ages. So they're talking to, men and women that are, much older than them, and it's a lively environment. Um, I trust their lives with, like, my oldest is 19 and he's interior now, and he's going in with you know those folks that I just mentioned, and I have
Yeah.
no doubt that he's in good hands and they're in good hands with him too. So it's just a great environment. I'm so glad I did it. Back when I was a teenager, and
Were you a junior? So you were a junior firefighter?
yeah. So I painted with a guy that was a member of my church, and we'd go to paint jobs, and they'd all leave because the pager went off, and I'd stay back and try to paint. And he just, they said, "Why don't you join?" So I joined, and never looked back. And from there, I ended up getting a job dispatching.
What was it for you, though? What was it for you?
Well,
because you obviously then didn't have a background in it, right?
Yeah,
You
no.
didn't have a father or anybody like that. So
No.
it was a bunch of guys you were working with. So why don't you join? You walked through the front door not knowing what to expect. What was the hook for you?
The hook was the answer to that was what I hear a lot of people tell me, and it was, giving you a purpose. I hear a lot of people say, "I feel like I have a purpose now," and you're part of a big thing. My oldest, when he was 14, he joined, and he was one step away from being an Eagle Scout, and came to the firehouse on a Tuesday night and joined and got gear, and we ended up getting a structure fire. We get 200 calls a year. Now that's no EMS at my station where I'm a lieutenant. So you don't get working fires that often. But when one came in, and he found himself very quickly on the working side of the caution tape that the police put up, and pushing hose into the basement door to his dad. So he came out of that with, like, man, this is real. Like, this is amazing. One day I'm a kid in math class, and the next second I'm, playing a key role in, something that's pretty important. So, I hear a lot of people say, like, I feel like I have purpose now. Some people feel like they're kind of like lost in the shuffle of life and things like that. So,
I think
that's what did it for me.
I think that's a big part of it today too, is I think a lot of kids, even though there's so many outlets and opportunities for them more than ever now, so many are still feeling lost, or they're just getting by, not having any real direction or idea of what they want to do. And I agree with you 100%. And it goes back to what I was saying, is that the volunteer fire service provides an incredible opportunity for these kids, and it gives them purpose. It gives them a place to belong. I think we have to be cognizant and have a real conversation up front that this is not for everybody. Not everybody can do this job. There's a space for everyone, but it doesn't mean everybody can do this job. And I think we have to be, that is a big part of the conversation, but that is where you come in with your program and your club, is setting the expectations, because I have to believe, to put together a club like you have, and I want to get into that, you have to really set forth expectations, because this is not a job. This is volunteer, yet it's a job that doesn't allow you to do it on your terms. And I think that that's an important part of it. And I think expectations absolutely matter. And for you to take on such an incredible role to build and develop this program and so on, you have to lay out a certain standard and level of expectation for these kids.
Yeah, for sure. With that said, we is the historian. She comes to events with the camera, captures things, doesn't doesn't care to, be grabbing
It's
a
part of
hose
the
line,
process.
and
That's
yeah,
okay. There's a
so
spot for everyone. It just
yep,
doesn't mean everybody can do the firefighting aspect of it.
yep,
But yeah, we need other roles within the within the volunteer fire service as well.
yeah, yeah.
So take me. So go ahead. So let's jump into this. So the club itself, you were looking at one. Let's put a curriculum in place, and the superintendent's like, "Whoa, slow down.
Yeah,
that's not going to happen, right? Not yet, right?
yeah,
Let's talk about putting a club together first, seeing the interest, looking at what it looks like. You worked with your friend of yours that was an ag teacher. He
mhm,
let you have some time in his class to, I guess, start talking about it.
yeah, yeah. That went well. We started out going in there for a full day in August. Actually, before we were ratified in I think it was November, maybe even December. But months prior, we actually went in and just started acting like a club right away.
Yeah,
Had a full day at the school. Took we're fortunate to have a couple guys here in town that are career guys at FDNY and down in Maryland. They came with me. I said, wear your city stuff. Kids just flock to that. And we took some air packs in, and we had kids that had no clue that it was even volunteer in our community, let
right.
alone, what an SCBA was. We had them in full turnout gear, on air, following a hose line through the classroom, crawling under desks. So we quickly knew right away that if we want to have, make a meaningful impact here, we got to do something that is cool, exciting, they've never done before, never experienced. So that's what we did. And right away from day one, I think we might have snagged, one or two, or even more, maybe two or three folks, set up, um, appointments to meet with the chief. Um, we want them to ideally connect with the firehouse that's closest to their home. So, we do things very basic. We have a map that says, hey, here's our 9 fire stations. Where do you live? Okay, this one's closest, because a lot of them don't drive. They're 14,
Right.
15, 16 with a learner's permit or something. So we want them to be able to get involved right away. All of our stations, all our fire companies have, you can join at 14. So they have junior programs. Um, and yeah, slowly but surely we've been building the club. We went from just the 6 that were members. I kind of just assumed that they would be members of the club, which they did. And then, now today we're up around 20.
It's great.
And of the 20, we have 12 of them that have ultimately connected with a firehouse. So that's really the goal, is to, come to the club, learn about it, experience all the events, and then join a firehouse. And, that's where they then are assigned gear, their turnout gear from
Sure.
their particular firehouse, so that when we do events that we require turnout gear, they bring it along in the school bus, or their chief drops it off at the school, or
It's awesome.
they keep it. The teacher, Devin Frank, is our faculty advisor. He is a civics teacher at the high school. We've turned his room into a mini firehouse, more or less. There's old SCBAs. We have a banner hanging there. There's turnout gear stacked up against the wall. Got to the point where we had so much stuff that we were looking for some storage. So one of our community members posted an ad on social media about a shed that they were selling, and I reached out, and he donated it to
Nice.
the club.
Yeah.
Someone, a towing company, went for no charge, picked it up at his house, moved it to the campus.
Awesome.
Yeah, just real cool. My plan was to try to stock that shed with everything you need to take. In Pennsylvania, it's essentials of firefighting. It's 4 modules, and it takes you from A to Z. So you need a lot of equipment along the way. Ropes and pike poles
Sure.
and
Hmm.
Halligans and things. So put the word out to try to get donations from folks cleaning out their storage rooms, and we've got quite a bit of hose and uh, kick off Mod 1, which is it the same in Jersey, New
So
York?
New Jersey runs a firefighter 1 program.
Mhm.
I don't even know how many hours it is these days.
Yeah.
I'm a little removed from the entry level, but
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but it is certainly like 6 months, 2 nights a week, bunch of Saturdays. It is a tremendous requirement and commitment from these kids.
Yeah. It's about 200 here in PA, and it's
probably
four,
the same.
Four modules. The completion of it would be taking your firefighter 1 test. So, but yeah, we're going to be kicking off in the 25-26 school year. We're going to be kicking off a senior co-op. So it'll be just for seniors, but the results of that would be in their senior year, they would finish their senior year with firefighter 2. So not just 1, but 2. They'd be set up to take their national EMT registry test. They'll have telecommunicator 1 and 2, vehicle rescue, and hazmat ops. So talk about, man, I wish that was an option when I was in school, So we're looking to kick that off next school year. In the time being, we've had tremendous support from the Office of the State Fire Commissioner, Tom Cook here in Pennsylvania. Him and his staff have been over the top accommodating and helpful. They come to a lot of our events. They're actually setting up to allow us to do Mod 1 here starting next Thursday. So that's kind of, just to kick off and test the waters on putting something into the classroom. But ultimately, I ran into a gentleman from the Wallenpaupack area. If you've ever been to Lake Wallenpaupack in Pennsylvania,
I have. Yes.
Keith Ganeski was the fire chief up there in Hawley. He's currently a president of the fire company. He happens to be the superintendent of Wallenpaupack School District. He has an amazing program where it's 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grades. And everything I explained in our co-op, the students that participate in that 4-year program get the same exact thing, when they graduate. So he's got a great following. I think this year he graduated 12 seniors, with interior credentials. And
yeah, it's fantastic.
I mean, that's what you need. I talked about the 10 in each grade. That's what he's got going on. So that's ultimately where we want to take this thing. As we take, baby steps here.
Are you finding support from the school system, from the school and the superintendent and the commission and so on that they're behind this? And then who's going to be teaching all of this? How does that curriculum going to look in 25-26?
Yeah, good question. Yes, the school district is very supportive. We are extremely fortunate. We've had a ton of folks from outside of our area contact me. I've spoken to, with the media covering it and social media sharing everything. I've had calls as far as Australia, reach out and say, hey, how did you do what you did? And
yeah, rightfully so. Sure.
So there's a couple other districts that, want to do things. They're just I think they're struggling a little bit at trying to get the FaceTime with the kids. So our administration here, our superintendent, are very supportive. They've they know we're trying to kick off this training this semester with certifications. That is, I mean, I'm always doing stuff every month, trying to plan cool and fun events. Next Tuesday we'll be at an indoor pool doing water rescue. But aside from that, that's not getting certificates in kids' hands, which is really what they want and need. To be able to, throw a ladder, crawl in the window, and be one of us, right? So
yeah.
But yeah, they've been supportive. Can't say enough about that.
How do you do it? Like this has got to be an incredible commitment on your end, and I'm sure you get support from the different fire departments and so on. I want to get to that in a minute, but how do you do it? What's pushing you? What's driving you? How do you find the time, the ability, the commitment? All of it. I mean, it's just really impressive, because I was having a conversation the other day about some things that I'd like to do in my local and ideas. And then I'm like, it takes time.
Yeah.
And time is more valuable than money these days. I can get money. You want me to go get money? We'll get money. We can find money. It's more about time and commitment to seeing these projects through. How do you, or what, I mean, obviously you're doing it, but how are you doing it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I work for a good company. You know, they allow me to leave to respond to alarms. And they're supportive of, you know, what I'm doing here. Um, I work with, you know, in our community, there's a great group of people. You know, if I ask for help, everybody's always asking, like, what can they do to help? And
It's
I
awesome.
ask them, and they're right there.
How are you educating the community about what you're doing?
We have a Facebook page for our club. I think we have 300 followers. You know,
It's great. Small
not
town, man.
yeah, not. We have a large medical center in our town, Geisinger Medical Center. So a lot of it's a teaching hospital. We have a lot of residents moving in, so there's a lot of traffic, people coming in from out of state. Neighbor moved in down the street from me, from Brooklyn, and was just amazed when I was telling about how the fire service works.
Yeah, like
So
it's volunteer. What?
yeah, totally
What?
couldn't believe it.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, educating the community is huge. Like these, we're trying to get the kids, we're trying to get the youth. I mean, we really need anybody, right? I mean, that's able to help regardless of age or abilities. But I'm focusing on the youth, and you know, I've quickly realized that one of the is, you know, you have to get the parents to buy in too. You know, if I want
Yes.
them to bring their 14-year-old to an event at the community pool next Tuesday evening, you know, they have to drive them there, but they have to understand what this is all about. So the local media has been doing a nice job covering our events and you know, writing good stories. And I've received a lot of good, you know, feedback from people and support. Some businesses have, you know, you'll notice on that shirt I sent you, Jeremy, there's 2 businesses on the sleeve. They each sent us $500. Said, here you go.
Awesome.
You know, we like what this is all about, and we want to support it. So there you go.
Awesome. I
So
love it. And then you got the 2 companies on the sleeves.
yep,
Absolutely. Bradley Insurance and Atlantic Culinary Environments.
yep.
I
So
it's so important to I wrote down on my pad here. I was making some notes, right? And I said the one thing that's so important obviously is communication, and to be able to share your mission and the successes of what you're doing becomes contagious for a community to get behind you.
mhm.
But it's a tremendous commitment on your part. You personally are putting in countless hours. Obviously the return is building up our ranks and you know, getting people involved and letting people fall in love with the fire service. But for you also, there's got to be just an incredible sense of personal achievement involved too. I would
Yeah,
expect.
yeah, there is for sure.
Yeah. Right.
No, I mean there is. I just like and anybody I work with, you know, in the business world will tell you, I think I just can't stand talking about a problem. Like,
I love that.
do you want to sit around and talk till you're blue in the face, or you just want to fix it?
Let's go do. Yeah, let's go
I'm
do it.
a very impatient person. Like I need to get things done, and sometimes I do the wrong thing, and you know, learn from it. And as I get older, I
Of
try to
course.
think about it a little more and avoid the problems. But um, we just we have a good group of people that, you know, are helping support all this. And you know, we finished one event. What did we do last month? We did a search and rescue. So we had a missing hunter, uh, and we had the police involved. The police told the club members what had happened. Well, this hunter went missing. I talked to the family. He was last seen this morning. Blah blah blah. This whole mock-up scenario, and from there we, you know, we acted. You know, we treated it like it was a real incident, and had a drone team respond. Emergency management flew the drones, found the victim with thermal, and walked through that whole thing. You know,
Sure.
and how it works. And then from there we deployed Turns out the victim was down, had some terrain to negotiate. Packaged them, had EMS there, Stokes basket hauling system, um, pulled them out, and then, made our way back to our, incident command center, and EMS took them off. So what was kind of ironic about that was we did that on a Friday. The prior Sunday or Monday evening prior to that, that exact scenario played out in real
There
life.
it is. Happens often.
And
Yeah.
we had some fire club members there for that. Unfortunately, it didn't end well with that particular scenario. But that's also those experiences that these kids come across. And I can tell you as a dad, my kids, they've experienced some things that I think help
Sure.
them later in life not make those decisions. You go to your DUI accidents and those type of things. So they see what can happen, and some of those things. It's unfortunate they see the outcome when it's not.
But it's also a part of life,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
we can expose. Not that we want to expose them to the tragedy and the travesties that happen.
Yeah.
But that is part of what we are a part of, and I don't know. I know it has impacted my daughter, who is now a member for almost a year now as a junior firefighter in the volunteer house. And I think that she's been exposed to some things that, have certainly shaped her opinions on her outlook on things, as well as they learn how to deal with people. They learn how to communicate. That volunteer firehouse can pull the shyest kid out of their shell.
Mhm.
It can humble the biggest popular big athlete kid. It can humble them.
Oh, absolutely.
So we offer it all across the board. And that is why I think it's such a great institution. I remember very early on when I was a chief years ago, not early on for me, but for another kid, when I was a chief, I had the police department. They do background checks on everybody and stuff. And I get pulled aside, and the cop at the time, the juvenile cop, said, "Listen, I can't say anything, but," he goes, "I don't know if you want this kid. This kid's a troublemaker in school. He's always out front making ruffling feathers and and all this stuff." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, maybe that's exactly what he needs, is the firehouse.
Mhm.
Maybe he needs some direction. Maybe he needs some structure. Maybe we can offer that to him." And I'm not gonna tell the kid no. If he's outgoing, I need outgoing people. Let's see if we can contain it, corral it, bring him in. And we
Yeah.
did. And all these years later, he's become a very good friend of mine. And he's like 10 years younger than me. But I love this guy to the end of the earth. And the fire service was exactly what he needed to
Yeah.
get his shit together. And
Yeah.
I just think that is one of those stories that stands out to me, because if I went on the recommendation of a police officer and he said that this kid didn't, he's not the type of kid you want, and I was like, okay, we don't want him. Who knows what his path could have been or where he ended up. And instead, he was an integral part of our department for many years. And he fell in love with the fire service, and it gave him the direction and grounding he needed to be a better person.
Yeah.
That's a win, man.
That's a great story, Jeremy. We did an event where we smoked up our field house. So where the locker rooms are around the football stadium.
Sure.
We banked that thing down to the floor, and we had kids going in there with air packs on. We had the local TV station out of Scranton in here. Had the reporter geared up on air, crawling through. She had a little bit of a panic attack, which was actually great that she did, in my opinion.
It's good for the story.
Yeah, it made the story. And anyway, that ended up, I wouldn't say go viral, but had a lot of people reach out because of that. And one guy that reached out was a captain in Chillicothe, Ohio.
Okay.
And he also, if I remember correctly, he also was on the school board there, career captain in a firehouse, but on the school board. And he said that they had, some disciplinary issues there, that they were looking to try to provide an outlet for those students. And I should actually follow up with him to see how he made out,
Should.
because he was looking
You
to
should.
try to start a club and give those kids an outlet. And the one thing that last May, the Pennsylvania Fire Expo down in Harrisburg, um, I reached out to the Lancaster County Chiefs who put on that show. I was real familiar with it when I used to be in my
Sure.
truck days.
The staple. Yeah, absolutely.
And so I reached out to them and said, "Hey, I got a club. Can I get some passes?" I think it's like, I don't know, $20 to get in. They sent um, passes to us for the whole club to get in. So it was
Awesome.
great. Went down there and took the kids through, and I hadn't been there in many years, but what I noticed was there were a lot of career departments there with booths looking for
100%.
candidates.
Recruiting.
And
They're recruiting.
when we marched through the little corridor there where all the career departments were, they were like vultures on these kids, grabbing them, talking to them, talking about, their pay, the benefits, 20-year retirement, those type of things. And I think that's one thing I could tell you right now, like if I was 18 again, I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I'd probably be
100%.
I'd be retired from a career department at 48 years old. I probably would have retired 3 years ago. But these kids, especially like you mentioned, maybe struggle with making good decisions. Can learn a lot, and they can leave if we have a program in place and they're stepping out of their senior year with firefighter 1 or 2 and an EMT. They can go to a career department. Now I want them to live in Danville. Don't move.
I get it.
Live here,
but
drive there, make a good living.
right.
You work, 6, 7, 8 days a month.
But even for those kids that go through the program and then they fly the nest, and you look at all of a sudden 10 years down the road, you have kids in fire departments, all over the country because of the foundation from which you gave them.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable how you can affect somebody's outcome.
Yeah. It is
That's
awesome.
exciting.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Yeah. I wanted to ask you this, the cohesion between the 9 fire departments in your school district.
Yeah.
For you, right, in your firehouse, it's easy because you're the program guy, you're the mentor, the monitor there, you're leading this club and this group, and it's your brainchild. But then you tell these kids, like, you live over there, so go join that fire department. How do you, this is more for the departmental side, how do you instill the same values and beliefs in this program to those other fire companies so that they buy in to the point that those kids don't feel lost or out of place when they get there?
Oh, that is such a great.
That's got to be such a challenge. It's got to be a huge challenge for you.
Yeah, your questions are just spot on. Awesome. Yeah. So initially, met with everybody, said, "Hey, do we have a need? Yes, we have a need. Okay, are you guys willing to support this? Because if I do something and it needs an aerial, the station with the aerial's got to be there." So, and they did, hands down, said, "Yeah, we need to do that." Now, our area is no different than any other area in our state or really across the country in terms of, you get differences between stations. So-and-so doesn't get along with so-and-so.
Yeah, right. 100%.
25 years ago, they, didn't vent the roof and we lost it. We could have saved I don't know, whatever the story may be. But this has definitely, in my opinion, and I think a lot of others would agree, brought more unity together amongst the 9 stations.
That's awesome. Yeah,
I was very, I didn't want to risk anything, like in terms of, we're dealing with minors, we're dealing with children under 18. There's only one way to do it. It's the right way. So, shared a lot of information from the fire commissioner helping us with, labor and industry and the standards and background checks and state police clearances and fingerprinting, those type of things. All of those things had to be taken into consideration and folks educated on it. I think, again, unlike or just like everywhere else, it's more so the alarm goes off, come in, go out, accident scene, fire scene, whatever, roll hose, get ready for the next one. This forced us to really get more educated on on juniors and what it takes, to really uh, correctly support a junior program.
Yes.
There's firehouse talk. Um, it's just one of those things. Um, but it's something that everybody has to be very cognizant of. We all kind of agree to remind ourselves or each other of that. I'll tell you, it does get challenging when
Of,
what
well,
hits
of
the fan,
course.
and you're really working hard at a scene. But um, everybody knows that, and everybody's understanding that. Hey, Jeremy, watch what's going on here. Oh, gotcha. You know,
Yeah. I mean, it's so important, right? Because you want to maintain the same temperature across 9 different fire companies for the kids that are coming out of this club that are interested, because what you're doing is you're starting them off on their journey, and they come to your fire club and it's like incredible success and they're enjoying it. They go to join their local fire company, and that fire company is very different than another kid's in the club fire company, and now that kid is loving it
hmm
at home, and his kid goes to join his company 3 districts over, and it's a terrible place to be.
yeah,
Because I know for a fact we can lose people so fast when you have kids, you're talking 14, 15, 16, up to 18 years old. You got 4 years worth of juveniles there that need supervision, but I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a
yeah,
good way, meaning we need to be hands-on. We need to be active and proactive with them, keeping them informed and let them understand where they fit in. That is a constant work in progress.
for
And we
sure.
can't just allow these kids to come in and just be like, stand over there, we'll get to you. Nobody ever gets to them anymore, right? They used to get to them. We don't get to them anymore. And the problem is like you want to make sure that these kids have the same experience across the board. And so the cohesion between all your fire companies is imperative.
Oh yeah,
And I just know how much work that takes.
yeah. It becomes one of the single biggest,
I bet.
areas to manage. We had 2 working fires, and you know, I always try to, I'm a lieutenant here at my station, but when we're at something and things start to chill out, I immediately snap into,
Yeah,
the
I get it.
kids in terms of, hey, so this is what's happened. See, we laid 5-inch up the driveway. Tankers are, supplying us, and just really try to explain what's going on. But yeah, it is a commitment. You can't, be halfsies on that. You got to be full in. And it really comes down to each and every station, department, managing that to the same level within their own house, and making sure that, these kids are surrounded with good mentors. And, we have people of all ages, abilities, backgrounds. It's really pairing that up, and maybe it's creating a mentor program within their own stations, so that whenever it's training night, we know that Joe and Susie are there to be one-on-one with the juniors. We just had
Right.
training Tuesday night at our station, and advanced people were doing one thing. Our captain took the juniors aside and did the same thing, but on a scaled down level, to really hone in on the fundamentals. So
And I think that is one of the biggest challenges I think anybody will have if they try to start a program like this. One, I mentioned to you your personal time. How much time do you have to commit to a project like this? And then two, not only are you facilitating this project and program, but then you have to go and sell it and get buy-in, not just from the community and from the townspeople and the council and the superintendent and the school board. You got to go sell it to your own guys. You got to go get buy-in from every single fire company involved and every single member to understand that this is a program for longevity of our fire company.
yeah,
And I need you in. I need you guys in.
yeah, yeah. It literally went from 0 to 60 in
I
a
bet.
flash, and I think, to be honest with you, and I would imagine this would be the experience someone would have, of what I'm doing in my capacity. elsewhere would be, it just goes so quick, and all of a sudden you're like, man, we're doing this, we're in it, and there's no looking back. And we finish one event, we immediately start thinking about what do we want to do next. Let's
Right.
bring some cars in.
Right.
Let's have somebody donate them, smash them up, and have the kids come out and extricate, dummies out of it. And then boom, we start planning that, and I don't know, it's organic, and it's addicting. I try to. It honestly doesn't take a whole lot of time. I mean, I spend a lot of time coordinating things, talking to people, getting resources together. But there's been local politicians, senators, representatives reaching out and saying, "Man, that's pretty cool," and asking questions and pushing things. Next Monday, I'll be at the Lake Silkworth Fire Department in rural Pennsylvania, in Upper Luzerne County. A local representative there came to one of our events here in Danville, and it's like, man, I want to do that, back in my district. So he said, hey, would you come up and talk to a group? So he's got 9 fire chiefs and 6 different school superintendents coming to this little firehouse in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
And I'm basically just going to be an organic discussion. Hey, this is what I did, and share with them the Constitution. And we came up with a 1-page front and back flyer to basically hand out. We have a lot of people ask us, what do we need? I don't really need anything. I just need people to understand that we're volunteer, and kids to get excited and join. Had a lot of people ask about, like, well, what kind of funds are you looking for? I guess, like, this training is going to cost money. But like yesterday, I was on the phone with Tom Cook, the fire commissioner of the state of Pennsylvania, and a couple of his staff members, and they were asking me if the idea was to make me basically dub me an instructor. Problem is, I don't have a teaching degree.
Right.
I have a bachelor's in business administration. So that kind of fizzled out. However, I don't really care. I don't have to have that. But literally within an hour, I had 4 other instructors, state certified instructors, that said, "Hey, I'll help you out." So this is for
and that's
free,
it, right? Yeah, this is what's exciting about it, right? And I think that going back to what you were saying, is really what the fuel is the outcome that you're seeing,
Mhm.
right? As it gets more successful, you're starting to see these kids really buy in. They're becoming integral parts of our fire companies. You're seeing the success of your hard work in the program, the fire club, being shown off. And what happens is, as soon as you start having, you start getting wins in the column, people want to be a part of a winning team.
Sure.
And we are at a place today in the American Fire Service where the volunteer fire service needs more wins. And we need to put the work in to be able to put the wins on the board. And you're doing that. And I think that is what's fueling your passion for it, to kind of double down and triple down.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing the success of it.
Yeah, I think as we get deeper and deeper into this, more people are now starting to realize the impact. What we're more than likely going to experience here in a couple of years. I think the national average is like 70% of the departments across the country are volunteer. In Pennsylvania, it's 90%.
Right.
So, I'm a lieutenant here at Mahoning Township in Montour County, but I live actually outside of town. But I work in town, so that's where I'm most active. But recently joined out in Valley Township, which is even more rural, and but we run Interstate 80. And it always makes me kind of chuckle to myself when, we get a lot of action on 80, a lot of accidents, and, Pennsylvania State Police pull up, EMS pulls up, there's fire, and we're volunteer. You would never imagine a law enforcement person pulling up to really any scene. It doesn't have to be an accident on 80, but and be volunteer, or EMS pull up and be volunteer. Now I do know there is still a lot of volunteer EMS as well.
Oh, for sure.
I think those
Absolutely.
percentages are more, the other way around, where more career versus volunteer. But just that, nationwide average is 70%. To take that 70% and turn them into career, I mean, the financial impact of that is, I mean, probably one of the most tremendous things a taxpayer would ever see. Um, there's all sorts of figures that I know are shared with, what it takes to run a career department, and, you know, in your experience of, like, fundraisers and,
Sure.
spaghetti dinners and, selling donuts and things like that. Like, that's what it takes to run these volunteer houses. And
That's what it takes to run a volunteer house. You want to go career, you're not doing spaghetti dinners. You know what I'm saying?
You
It
got
takes
that.
a massive commitment, financial commitment from the residents and from the town or the district. And frankly, it is near impossible in most of these communities to offer that type of paid service. And
Sure.
so then we have to be proactive in our approach to make sure that our volunteer firehouses remain strong and steady.
Mhm.
And I think a big part of that process is us admitting when we're not delivering on the needs of the community. And I think too often in the fire service, we're busy burying our heads in the sand and pretending we don't have issues. That if the engine's getting out with 1 or 2 and not 4, or if we're going second or third call for an ambulance, we're not providing the service that we should be to the residents, and we have to be able to have real conversation. The volunteer fire service is just super guilty at burying their heads in the sand and not admitting our shortcomings or downfall.
Mhm.
And, we all know that's a part of it. And so what are we doing about it? You could either do nothing and bury your heads in the sand, or you could start taking some proactive approaches, like starting a fire club and going after the younger generation, or going after colleges in your community, or looking at, districting up with another department next to you to double down on resource, whatever it is. We have to do our part to protect the sanctity of the volunteer fire service, because we don't have that luxury of saying, well, if nobody's going to come, they'll just put a paid engine in here. How?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
It's a big part of it.
Yeah. In all honesty, like, we have this club, we're getting some kids. We're giving it a valiant effort to try to, save it.
You're doing more than most.
Yeah. I have
Than most.
I have my doubts that it'll be successful long term, but at some point, and that's where I was invited up to Old Forge, Pennsylvania, to testify at a policy hearing, which sometimes I have a hard time remembering which is the donkey and which is the elephant, and who's who. And but so
Right,
yeah,
of course.
I went and testified, and it was a great experience for me personally. But it was at least showed me that, it is out there. People do understand that we are at, the alarm has been pulled in terms of, somebody's got to start talking about something here to keep this going, because it is it's going to affect the public very tremendously. So I think we're probably a couple years late in really, as a community, like, or as a country, addressing it. But you still gotta try to figure it out. I'm hoping ultimately that, like in Harrisburg, in terms of Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, works with the Department of Education, and the PEMA works with them, and they get together and say, okay, we got to get kids, we got to get a system in there. And just like they require math and English, they at least have an elective for kids to, get into this line of work.
It's awesome.
And help their communities to keep it going. I really think that's one of the biggest, ways to impact the numbers, is you got to have something in place to feed it. If you're just relying on, once in a while a kid come to the station and say, hey,
Right.
this looks kind of neat.
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
No, it's not.
No.
It's not.
No, and what I love too is the power of National Fire Radio, which I absolutely love, like having you on today and sharing this. Hopefully it spurs the conversation and gets some people interested, and I'll put your contact information and everything that
Perfect.
we do. But I've gotten to meet other people across the country that run programs, whether it's an embedded program already in the school system, which I'm going to put you in touch with one or two guys that I know run very successful programs, other clubs and activity groups that pursue the fire service or EMS. We need to be doing our part. We need to be doing more of this. And so with National Fire Radio, it's great. That's why I love having these conversations, because it's just letting everybody know that there are programs out there that are working, or they're beginning to work, they're clicking, they're success stories. And what it takes is dedicated people to go all in and to really understand what it takes to save us, to keep us running. And you're one of those guys, man. Eric, you're doing great stuff. Great stuff. Great
Thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to talk about our club and, help get the word out. This has been fun and exciting, and I can't say enough.
We have an obligation and duty to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't get to turn our backs on it. We don't, I grew up in the volunteer fire service when I was a little kid, 6, 7, 8 years old. I remember my early days in the firehouse, when my father would allow us to be there. And it was the most special time of my life. I remember going to the firehouse and just in awe of it as a kid. And then I got to join, and we didn't have a junior program when I joined. So I joined at 18 at a regular member. And then literally the next month they started the junior program. So, I missed out on 2 more years that I could have been there. Right. But ultimately for me, I'm very much in love with it. And I'm very protective of it and passionate of it. And so we have to do our part to make sure that we're getting out there so we can protect the volunteer fire service. This is what this is.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, if you're ever passing through,
I'd love to take
80.
you up on that for sure. I'm going to send you, I'm out Route 80 all the time. So that's easy. That's absolutely easy. I do need like information from you so I can send you guys. I want to send a care package off to the club and so on. So
awesome.
We'll get that together. Yeah, man, it'd be cool. But if anybody wants to reach out to you, Eric, if you don't mind, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people with some questions or interest. Is there an email or a way that people can get a hold of you?
Yeah. Probably the best way, I have quite a few different accounts, as most people do. The easiest one is my business account. It's my first name dot last name. So it's eric.frantz. That's eric.frantz at fabtex.com. fabtex.com. I'm, as awesome. You are, and can tell, I'm pretty passionate about it and willing to help however.
Rightfully so, man.
So,
you are really helping mold and shape the future of the fire service in your area, and I think that that's powerful.
Yeah.
And if that can spill over to other areas of Pennsylvania or outside the borders of Pennsylvania, man, you're doing your part. We need more guys like you to step up and take a lead and make a difference. And I know there's guys all over the country doing it.
Sure.
I want to hear from them because, it's success stories like this that give me hope every single day that we're not going anywhere. So I love it, man.
Yeah.
Eric Frantz, thank you. Thanks for joining me today, man. Much success with the Danville High School Fire Club. You guys are crushing it. I love it. I wish you continued success with that and constant growth.
Yeah.
And if we can help you with anything, let me know for sure.
All right. Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks, National Fire Radio. Appreciate it.
I love it. Stay right here. I'm going to sign off the podcast. I'll come right back to you. Okay. Don't go anywhere.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah, cool. Guys, thanks for tuning in for another episode of the National Fire Radio podcast. This is one of those conversations today. It's a little bit different, but it's what we should be talking about. We have an obligation here to make sure that the fire service is left in better hands than we find it. Guys like Eric Frantz are doing that in Danville, Pennsylvania. I challenge you that if you're in a volunteer fire department and you're looking for ways to increase your membership and manpower, it takes work. You got to put the work in, and there's guys like Eric that are out there that can help you craft and create a narrative how we can continually bring in the next generation. So do me a favor. Take this conversation, take it back to the firehouse and talk about it, because when we're talking about the fire service, we're making the job better. I'll see you at the next one. Jeremy, National Fire Radio.
National Fire Radio.